People often say, everything happens for a reason. But when life goes wrong, those words can feel confusing. So today, let's explore what they really mean through a simple story. In a small town near the edge of a quiet lake, a worried young woman walked slowly toward an old teacher who was known for his wisdom. Her clothes were dusty, and her eyes were red as if she had been crying for hours. The teacher noticed her sadness and spoke softly. "My child, why is your heart so heavy today?" The young woman sat down beside him and whispered, "Sir, everything I owned was taken from me. Thieves entered my home and stole all my savings. Now I have nothing, and I don't even know how to rebuild my life." She wiped her tears and added, "People keep telling me it happened for a reason. But how can losing everything be good for anyone?" The teacher listened without interrupting. He nodded gently, letting her know she was heard. Then he said, "Sometimes the answer isn't clear at the moment. Sometimes life hides the meaning until the right time comes." The young woman looked confused, unsure what he meant. Seeing this, the teacher smiled kindly and said, "Let me explain it in a way that is easier to understand by telling you a story." And with that, he began sharing a tale that would slowly open her eyes to a truth she had never considered before. The teacher looked at the young woman and began his story in a calm voice. "Many years ago," he said, "there was a small town near the mountains. One season, heavy rain poured for days, and a huge flood swept through the area. Houses were destroyed, farms disappeared, and people were left with nothing but fear and confusion. In that town lived a simple fisherman and his family. They had only a small boat and a few nets, and even those were taken by the strong water. Everything they had saved for the coming months was gone." The teacher paused, then continued. But in the middle of all this, the fisherman's daughter held her father's hand and said softly, "Dad, maybe something good will come from this. Let's not lose hope." The fisherman became angry. His voice shook as he shouted, "How can you say that? We have lost our home, our food, our future. What good can come from this disaster?" In his frustration, he told his daughter to leave him alone. The young girl, hurt by his words, walked away with tears in her eyes. Hours passed, and as the evening sky turned orange, the fisherman sat alone thinking about what he had said. A feeling of regret slowly filled his heart. Just then, a rescue team arrived in a large boat and helped the fisherman and many others reach safety. One of the villagers looked at him and said, "Your daughter wasn't wrong. You're alive, and that itself is a blessing. Not everyone was this lucky." But the fisherman, still bitter and tired, replied, "Alive, yes, but with nothing left. We have no home, no money, and no certainty. How can this possibly be good?" The teacher stopped for a moment and looked at the young woman beside him, letting the weight of the story sink in. The teacher continued, "When the fisherman returned to the shelter where his family was staying, his wife placed her hand gently on his shoulder. She said softly, 'We may have little right now, but please don't give up. I can work in a few houses nearby, and together we will find a way to survive.'" The next morning, the fisherman went to the nearby town in search of work. He walked from shop to shop, asking everywhere, but no one was willing to hire him. After hours of trying, he came back exhausted, feeling more defeated than ever. Standing outside the small temporary tent they had been given, he looked at the sky and whispered, "My daughter is hurt, my boat is gone, even my nets are gone. And people still expect me to believe everything happens for a reason." His wife heard him and replied gently, "Don't lose heart. Try again tomorrow. Life doesn't stay the same forever. Things do change." The fisherman sighed, nodded slowly, and went out once more, hoping the day would bring something different. On his way, he met a traveling monk who noticed the deep sadness on his face. The monk stopped him and asked, "My friend, what burden are you carrying? You look troubled." The fisherman told him everything, how the storm destroyed their home, their boat, their savings, and how guilt and helplessness had pushed his daughter away in tears. The monk listened quietly, taking in every word. After a moment, he said, "This is exactly why I tell people that even painful events sometimes bring hidden blessings." The fisherman frowned deeply. "How can you say that? I wake up suffering every single day." With calm eyes, the monk replied, "Because answers don't always appear immediately. Some truths reveal themselves only when the time is right. Until then, don't lose your faith." The teacher paused here, giving the young woman a moment to absorb the meaning behind the monk's gentle words. The teacher continued, "That night, the fisherman sat alone outside the shelter, thinking about the monk's gentle words. He wondered if they could really be true. Could there be a reason behind everything he had lost? A few days later, something unexpected happened. A warm-hearted shop owner from the town noticed the fisherman's honesty and offered him a job at his small store. Not only did he pay him fairly, but he also gave the fisherman and his wife a tiny room behind the shop where they could live peacefully. One evening, just as the fisherman was closing the shop, he heard a knock on the door of the small room. He opened it, and his breath stopped. Standing in front of him was his daughter. "Father," she said with a bright smile, "I looked everywhere for you. After I left, I found a small job in the city. I saved whatever I could and started a small tea stall. And guess what? It's doing really well now." The fisherman felt his eyes fill with tears. He pulled her into a tight embrace, unable to speak for a moment. In that quiet second, he understood something he had never seen before. Every struggle, every loss, every painful moment had gently pushed them toward a new beginning. Everything he once feared had actually led his family to a safer, better life. The saint finished his story and looked at the young woman. The young woman sighed. "That's a beautiful story, but my situation is different. Everything I had was stolen. What good can come from that?" The saint smiled gently and reached into his small cloth bag. "I actually found something in the forest," he said softly. "Maybe this belongs to you." He placed a small glowing stone in the young woman's hand. The young woman's eyes widened. It was the philosopher's stone. The stone, people said, could turn iron into gold. She stared at it in shock. "Master, if my things hadn't been stolen, I would have never come here, never met you, and never received this gift." The saint nodded kindly. "My friend, today teaches us something important," he said. "No matter how dark a moment feels, it doesn't stay forever. Life changes, pain fades, and often the worst things lead us to the best places. That's why you must never decide in anger or sadness, because you don't know what blessing is quietly coming your way." The saint smiled. The young woman smiled back. And suddenly, the world felt lighter. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a little hope today. More healing stories are coming. Stay with me.